And the big elephant in the room when we're talking about optimal health is carbohydrates. The standard American diet is littered with carbohydrates. And even the healthy American diet is littered with carbohydrates. Whether it's in the AM for snacks, breakfast, lunch, dinner, they're everywhere. And my new mantra in life is that, if we can control our blood sugar, we can control our health. And like I said, once we have control over our health, everything else is downstream. Everything just falls in line with that. So carbohydrates, and that's, that's the elephant in the room, but you can still eat chicken and broccoli all day. You guys may not know this. You can still eat chicken and broccoli all day and still get a blood sugar response from that. You can still have an insulin spike just from eating a piece of boiled chicken. And the reason is because once you start to understand the body's number one purpose, focus, and priority, number one is survival. If you understand that and you relate that to what you're eating and how you're eating it, at what time, how you're exercising, what type of exercise you're doing, the time at which you're exercising, sounds complicated, and it is, but if we make it really basic and just realize that the human body's number one goal is to stay alive, whatever it has to do to survive. So when certain things are going on, like we're eating just chicken and broccoli, the body has these awesome hormonal processes that can turn those amino acids, that protein, into glucose. It does it with a hormone called glucagon in the liver. The body can actually break down your own muscle tissue to turn that into glucose. And glucose is what we break down all carbohydrates down into. Glucose is what we store in our muscles in our liver to supply our body the little bit of glucose that it needs in between meals. There was a study done in the mid-1980s, kind of mid-early 1980s. It was the first study of its kind that really measured how much storage capacity every human has, women and men, in their livers and their muscles of glucose. How much glycogen, which is what glucose is stored as, glycogen, how much storage capacity we have in our liver and our muscles. Now, the typical diet, right, is always, at least the governmental recommendations, is based on 2,000 calories, right, 2,000 calories. Well, the average man has less than 1,900 calories storage capacity, caloric storage capacity, less than 1,900 calories of glycogen in the entire body. Women have even less. It's more about 1,400. Now, when you think about that, both men and women have a greater than a statistically significant value of less than 2,000 calories storage capacity in their entire body for glucose. Yet, on the other hand, we have almost an infinite amount in relationship, almost an infinite amount of storage capacity when it comes to fat. Fat cells have this unique ability to split spontaneously. When a fat cell is overloaded, we get more fat cells literally by splitting spontaneously. It will split and share the fatty acids inside of it so that it can continue to grow, and store this energy as fuel for a later point in time. And that's the purpose of glycogen, right? Is to store glucose for a later point in time. But we need so little of it that on average, women are storing about 1,400 and men about 1,800 calories of glycogen, calories of glucose. That's how little we need to survive. That's how little we need to survive through the most bitter winters. That's how little we need to survive an attack. That's how little we need to survive anything. So if you imagine how long the humans have survived, has nothing to do with glucose. It has nothing to do with carbohydrates. We do need a little bit, but that is not it. It really comes down to fat. How well we can store this fat, and we can tap into that fat. And the weird thing about the body is that when we think about survival, it doesn't have the infinite intelligence that's governing our body does not have the context of time or choice or situation. So when we hop on the treadmill and we start running for any time longer than 30 minutes, immediately our body starts going through physiological processes and hormonal functioning in order to survive. Remember, that is the number one priority. So whether we're eating, whether we're working out, whatever we're doing, whether we're stressed out, whatever's going on in our life, the body has no concept of context, time, choice, or anything. It is only focused on survival without any context surrounding it. So it does not know that at any point in time, you have the choice to get off that treadmill. You have the choice to pick up a bottle of water and hydrate yourself. It doesn't know those things. All it knows is what it's experiencing right now and what it has available. So if you're on the treadmill for 30 minutes and you're just running without continuous water consumption, or you're just running at a steady state, the body immediately starts to change and switch focus to how can I survive this? I'm going to make the physiological changes so that I can use the most sources of energy I have available, glycogen and fat, the fat stores and glucose stores, use those energy sources to go as long as I possibly can, because it doesn't know when you're going to stop. So it immediately starts making the changes to go as long as humanly possible, because it will do that to survive. It'll start breaking down your muscle tissue before it starts using glycogen stores, and it will start to become the most efficient fat burner. So you start burning the least amount of body fat possible to go the furthest distance possible. Essentially, you're turning your body into a Prius. Right? It's like, we are going to go the distance and use as little fuel as possible. Now, if that's what you guys want, that's totally cool, but I would love it, and I pride myself in the fact that I'm training my body to be like a 1960s muscle car when it comes to fat. Just guzzling it, you know. The carburetor's opening up and it is just dumping fat into it. Now, so I train and I eat based on that. And so I never go hungry, because I never want my body to think like, when's the next food coming in? I'm always hydrating myself, because I never want my body to think, when am I going to get hydrated? It's a weird thing about fat stores. Our body will hold on to fat when we're chronically dehydrated, because it can tap into those fat stores as a source of hydration. And when our body is really thinking about it, get back to survival, the body's always focused on survival. So it will stop processes, some lesser important processes. It'll stop wasting energy on those, or faculties or resources on those processes, those inefficient processes, when it's lacking in other areas, more important areas like hydration, like oxygen, like food. What's one of the most metabolically active tissues in our body? It's our muscles. Muscles eat fat for breakfast. So when we're dehydrated or we're hungry, if we're not properly supplying our food with nutrients, it will immediately start breaking down muscle tissue. And it does it with this hormone that everybody knows. It's the stress-related hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is very catabolic. There's catabolic and anabolic. And catabolic means tear it down. Anabolic means build it up. Get rid of it, grow. And so whether it's our muscle tissues or our fat tissues, we can literally eat carbohydrates in the right way, we can eat fats in the right way, and we can eat protein in the right way to manipulate our body to use cortisol to tear down fat stores, to supply the energy to our muscles. If you know how to time and your nutrients appropriately, if you're putting the right ratio of nutrients in your body at the right time, you're exercising appropriately. And don't get me wrong, I love to exercise, it's a lot of fun. But what I found out, optimally for health, is that we don't really need to exercise that much. We're kind of like cheetahs. And if you guys ever seen, in Africa, cheetahs just hanging out, most of the time they're just laying down in the shade, relaxing, and then when it's time to go, man, they go, right? They're like fastest ground animals on the planet, and they take care of business. And then what are they eating? They're eating lean meat sources and fat. And they have very, very little carbohydrate consumption. We're very much like a cheetah. We are very much not like a cow. Yeah, we're very much not like a cow. We only have one stomach. We don't do well grazing all day. We eat, I eat twice a day, sometimes one time a day, but I'm never hungry because I know how to manipulate my macronutrients. Macronutrients, that's carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. I know how to eat, that's like the most basic food groups, right? So I know how to eat that way to where I'm not hungry. My body is tapping into fat stores all the time. I'm fat adapted, so if I ever need energy sources, my body's just like a muscle car for fat. I'm not a Prius, thank goodness. It'll tap into fat stores because it knows that I'm going to eat, or it's not necessarily that it knows that I'm going to eat, but it knows that it has the right nutrients, the storage available. I've trained my muscles that way. I'm on a great hormonal cycle that, when we wake up in the morning, cortisol, as everybody's like so focused on cortisol, oh, we gotta keep cortisol low. Cortisol actually peaks in the morning. That's what helps wake us up. Human growth hormone is highest in the morning. Testosterone is highest in the morning. That's for both men and women. Men and women both have testosterone. We both have estrogen. Just women have a lot more estrogen than guys do, and guys have a lot more testosterone than estrogen. That's why guys build so much muscle in relationship to women. It takes some serious anabolic hormone supplementation for women to get like that bodybuilder look. It is super, uber difficult for women to lift weights and look like how I look. To have the muscle mass that I have. And I don't have a lot. I have lean muscle, but I don't really have that much muscle mass. If that's your thing, if you want to put on a lot of muscle, that's great. I'm just not focused on that, especially as an athlete. It doesn't make sense for me to kind of have to waddle down the track because my legs are so big, But yeah, so we're on these daily hormonal cycles, and when we know how to eat appropriately, when we know how to exercise appropriately, it's really amazing how much you can eat when you're eating the right way, and when you're and then it's like, man, how can I eat so much and exercise so little? You just can when you know how to do it, and it's just amazing. This isn't a diet. I haven't found some golden key diet